I was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, and it ultimately led me to do 10 years in prison. I learned forgiveness. I feel like God was guiding me through the parts of the Bible that speak on forgiveness, right? And so I started to try to embrace that, only in the sense like, not if you punch me in my face, I walk away, but in the sense like, all right,
I'm gonna put it all in your hands, but I know I have light at the end of the tunnel.
100%. So when I would pray, I would talk like how I'm talking to you right now. I went viral just for the court picture and stuff like that. And so like I knew somehow, some way, my life is gonna be used for something, because God keeps letting me get to these checkpoints to let me know like, yo, this is your level. Like, some people are meant to work in grocery stores and they're gonna be good at it. Some people are meant to be mailmen. Some people are meant to play basketball. What we all had in common was that we all felt pain. We all had hurt that we didn't know how to process and digest.
Don't stop sharing your story. Don't stop telling your story, because through your story, believe it or not, you're helping a lot of people out there.
I was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, and it ultimately led me to do 10 years in prison.
Welcome to another powerful episode of the Off the Count podcast. I'm your host, Jason Abreu, founder of Made Up North, a movement built on freedom, redemption, and second chances. If you've been following the movement and locking in with these episodes, you know one of the biggest parts of my mission is youth prevention. Reaching the youth before the streets does. Reaching the youth before the system does. And my guest today, his story represents why that work is so important. I actually connected with my guest the first time through social media. I had came across one of his videos where he was actually, using his platform as a way to let people know how easy it is. One life-altering decision, all the consequences that could come thereafter. So for me, it's a privilege and an honor to have youth mentor, prison advocate, Bible mentor, and musician, Rico Montalvo. Rico, brother, thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate you taking the opportunity and taking the time to come sit with me, man.
Appreciate you. Thank you for having me, 100%. Definitely grateful to link up with anybody trying to push purpose, trying to push cause, trying to push some sort of an impact, So I definitely appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, definitely. I think sometimes people don't really see the power of social media. But one thing I'm gonna tell you, there's no denying, when the alignment is there and you feel it, it's real. Like one day I'm just on social media going through videos and I came across one of your videos where you're actually using your lived experience, when you were going through the system at an early age and comparing it with another young brother who was going, through the similar situation. And that right there, I just felt very compelled to drop a comment on that video and give you your flowers, because we are living in a day and age, where the youth, they really need the guidance and they need more leaders such as yourself who actually use the experience to step up and avoid them going down that path, because one thing is to come home, get off that count and make it count. But when you decide to come home and make it count for others, that's priceless. So thank you, brother, for stopping by, man.
For sure, man. When I was first starting out my bid, a page had went viral with me for people like bashing me for what I was locked up for. And some people were defending me, and it made enough of an argument that the page started to go viral locally. And then it started to go viral in other states as well. And so I remember being in there and that being like a little bit of like joy for me, because I felt like people were paying attention. And like subconsciously, I felt like maybe somebody would be able to help, even though that don't be the case. But I just felt like, well, at least somebody's eyes is on it, so that way they can't do me dirty, like as far as injustices and things of that nature, But I just saw myself in the young boy, you feel me, like to the T. Like when I saw the picture come across my social media, I was just like, wow. It appalled me how much I knew what that was like.
And it's crazy because I've seen the pictures like very, very similar. Like both of y'all walking into the courtroom, and then the caption that you dropped on that picture, that's what even made it more impactful. And I felt it here because I myself took that walk, not once, not twice, a couple of times going to court. So like I said, a lot of people come home and focus on rebuilding their life, which is obviously the goal. But when you actually make that decision, like I'm going to rebuild my life, but actually use my experience to help others, that's meaning and that's purpose. So
For sure.
before, and like I said, I started following your story. Very powerful story. And I definitely want to dive into that. But before we go into the story, Rico, tell us, who was Rico like growing up? Where you from? What kind of upbringing you had? And how do you feel your upbringing played, like any parts in the decisions that you made while growing up?
Okay, yeah. So my name is Erico Montalvo. I'm 28 years old, and I was born in Providence, Rhode Island. So Providence, Rhode Island is a really small town, you can call it. It's about the capital of Rhode Island, Providence, and it's where you find a lot of the urban life. So my family, they from New York. They from
Okay.
Manhattan and the Bronx. By the time my mother had me, she was in her 30s. My mom was 33 years old when she had me. So she was already at the wits end of her, basically her New York life. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
She was already getting older, and she wanted to relocate, sort of like how people do once they try to get out the streets and stuff like that. My mom was heavy into the streets. My mother's baby dad at the time, he was selling drugs, and they was living that life. He ended up getting killed. So my mom suffered a lot of heartaches and a lot of hurts throughout her street life, and she just wanted to get away. So she just felt as though somewhere like Providence was a 360 from New York City.
Yeah.
So I end up in New York City. It's a really small town, and everything is kind of stacked up on top of each other. And one of the things that was to my detriment of her moving over there, all my siblings stood here. I
Hmm.
got different I got siblings that we're half siblings. We all got different fathers and stuff like that. But
Okay.
even the part of us that would have kept us together, which is my mom, got separated. So they all stood here, Queens, the Bronx, Jersey, all scattered around here. And then I ended up over there, Dolly, just me and my mom Dukes.
Okay.
So that made it a little tough growing up because I was kind of finding brotherhood in things other than was really my siblingship and my blood, you know. And when you're young and you have that hole in you that you feel singular, you feel like an individual, you feel like lonely. You try to fill those gaps with things like friendship and
Of
stuff like
course,
that.
absolutely, yeah.
So it being an urban area, on top of it being small, it's made up of mostly Latino and African Americans. It more than less guides you towards the more rougher thing in life than the more gentle and delicate thing in life. So I was just filling holes as a kid growing up, all the way up into a teenager, with the people that I felt as though were like me. They were alone. My father been deported since 2002 in the Dominican Republic, so it was really just me and my mom for a little while before I ended up going to the state when my mother lost custody of me. So I was getting along with people who were of similar background or the same exact thing, you know. And what we all had in common was that we all felt pain. We all had hurt that we didn't know how to process and digest. And we weren't emotionally intelligent enough to understand what was inside of us. All we knew that we felt validation within each other by the way that we act because we saw it within each other. So when you're a kid and you see somebody act the way you act, it validates you to think, all right, if somebody else is doing it, then it's normal and it's right. And
Hmm.
if they're not with it, meaning like people who are opposed to the way you act as a kid, you just feel as though that they're not your kind, you know? And
Exactly.
so I grew up with that type of mindset.
All right. So, and how long? Well, what age did you get to Providence, more or less?
So I was actually born in Providence, Rhode Island, hospital called Women and Infants.
Okay.
Yeah, and I grew up there, in and out. I spent some time in Philadelphia for a few years, came back, and for the most part, I spent mostly my whole life in Providence, Rhode Island.
Yeah, and I understand exactly where you're coming from. It's like when you having like a sense of like, I want to say, loneliness, or you just feel like you want to associate yourself with people, with like-minded individuals, right?
Hmm.
And you turn to what obviously to the world may seem like that's the wrong thing to do, but
Yeah,
it's like you guys are sharing that pain,
yeah.
So I resonate with that. But when you was, growing up, adolescent, did you have anyone in particular like to ever try to steer you in that right path,
For
Rico?
sure, 100%. I'm talking about mentors. I was in a Big Brother program because when you get taken by the state, they extend a lot of these programs to you because you're in Rhode Island. It's called DCYF.
Okay.
I believe in New York it's called DHS, but
Yeah.
it's similar to just being in the state, and they, as a part of the mental health part of it, they put you in counseling and they extend Big Brother mentorship programs to you. And so I actually had a mentor at one point in time that was running for governor of the state. His name was Patrick Lynch.
Oh
He was my
wow.
mentor. He
Wow.
used to have me in the state house, and they used to definitely push forth people my way to try to guide me because they knew I didn't have no dad. I didn't really have no role models, but I didn't see myself in any of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these are white people with suits, or it's people way older than me that I feel like are talking at me and not to me.
Yeah.
So as a kid, you don't hear that, you know?
Of course, you're not trying to hear it. And now, so you link up with your boys, yeah, you know, going about life, how y'all going about it? Like, around what age did you like start having issues like run-ins with the law? Like you felt that it was having, you know, these interventions, like God trying to speak to you. Cause like I said, I've been following your story and I know how important God and faith is to you. And it's not something that was just created in prison. This was something that you actually practiced before, which is something that I resonate myself with too, you know?
So I had an understanding of who God was, because one thing that my mother did do when I was a kid was force me to go to church. Like I said, she was in the end stages of her street life. So she was trying to get into the word of God. And so I'll be right there tagging along with her in the early stages of my life. So I didn't really know what was a relationship with God, but I knew what it was to speak to God. So even though I was in my delinquency, I would still say prayers and stuff like that. And I kind of knew like the basic things. Like if you die in your sin, you go to hell.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just knew what it was to not go to heaven, you know, what I understood of that, you know. So in the process of me growing up, I would pray before I went outside. I would pray for my boys. I would pray that like we would be safe. Even if I was getting ready to go do some stuff, you know what I'm saying? I would pray that we would make it through, just not knowing, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
But just having dialogue.
Of course,
in general. So when I was young enough, the way things transitioned as far as the law, when you're a kid and you start making yourself a part of the crowd of what they call delinquency, it's levels and there's progressions, right? And so it's funny to fight in school, fist fight. You get acceptance because of that. But the older you get, the more played out that becomes, because anybody can fight. We all know that we fight now. So now is what else can you do? You're going to break this window to this car? Or that's gangster, you know, like as a kid, you know, 11, 12. Oh, he's not scared. Then it becomes a thing of bravery. Who's the bravest?
Yeah.
So if you're ready to break that window, I'm going to break the house window. Because now I want to be brave and I don't want to do the same things as you. So now we're trying to top each other in bravery by the delinquencies that we do. And 11 turns to 12 to 13 and 14. And now you're not too much of a baby anymore. So when the cops chase you, they don't bring you home. They bring you to the station.
Of course. Yeah.
They let you go in the morning, but they're bringing you and they're fingerprinting you and processing you.
Yeah.
And now when you're 15 and 16, you're going to the juvenile corrections.
All right.
And this is how things went progressing with me. It was like fist fighting, and then it was like delinquencies, like breaking stuff, stealing stuff. And then before you know it, it became like just more aggressive type things, you know, that had to do with like crime, you know. I was never too much of a robber or a jack boy, but a lot of my stuff was like I had a crowd of people to we was like hanging around long enough to where we became a unit to the outside public. This is how gang culture gets involved in things. Yeah. And before you know it, we have a name of who we are, you know. 2 is company, 3 is a crowd.
Yeah.
So I have a crowd of people that people know me of being with, and I'm thinking those are my brothers at the time. I'm feeling my single childhood ship with them as my brother. So I want to protect them the way I feel like they protect me. But what that's called beefing in the streets. You know, so that's when it becomes dangerous, because now we got weapons and they're doing stuff to us. We're trying to do stuff to other kids. We don't know their kids at the time because they're the same age as us. But this is how I'm starting to get locked up and even get into the juvenile system. And like I've said before, when I was in the midst of that, I would do anything to get out my cell, because you spend a lot of cell time in the rooms, even though you're a minor and an adolescent. And church was something that we would always find in there. And it was something that they'll always let you go to and leave your cell if you want to, you know? Yeah. And so me trying to finesse the system, I'm like, I spend an hour, get an hour out of my cell, sing some songs.
Yeah, when they call church,
everybody, you know? So at first we take it like a joke. Yo, you going to church? We're asking each other in there, I'm going to see you tonight at 7. Pastor Mike's coming through. And so we'll be in church singing the songs, thinking it's funny. But what we're not noticing is that in the process of what we're doing, we're like inadvertently hearing God's messages without meaning to. And so this was starting to well something up inside of me, because I'm in there like a joke just to be with my boys. And little do I know, I'm opening my ears to something.
Yeah, and you feel like the more you going as a joke, it's like you feel God is hitting you with more messages and you taking them in. So here you are, young boy, going through the system, right, Rico, in and out, whatever, spending some time. Then fast forward the tape. You had a situation, right, that is fair to say was a big situation, right?
Yeah, definitely.
How old were you when that happened? And did you ever see, like, in the midst of you being 14, 15, 16, that
Mhm.
it would reach a point to this level? Like, one decision, one altering, decision was going to come with
Yeah.
these consequences?
Honestly, I did. The thing about consequences is that you don't know. It's like if I meet you in the street, I don't know you until I speak to you,
Mm-hmm.
until I have an encounter with you.
Yes.
So we don't know consequences. We know of them. We know them by their name, but we don't know how it feels. We don't know how it looks. We don't know how it treats us.
Yeah.
So when you're in the streets and you adopt street life as your identity, you tell yourself, I know I'm not going to last long. I know there might come a point in time where they overtake me, but I'm willing to gamble. And the incentive of gambling, people say, well, what are you gambling for? The incentive in the gamble of the street culture is the respect that you can get that will ultimately make you somebody to have an image, or it gives you identity.
Mm-hmm.
Identity is what you're looking for when you're lost in the streets.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can make it through the Tony Montana lifestyle, which is basically being a successful criminal. And also, I'm a musician. I've been making music since I was a teenager as well. So the ultimate goal was like, all right, I carry my lifestyle with me into hip hop culture, and maybe eventually I make it. And now everything I did and all my efforts that I put forth are worth it
It
because
pays
I
off. Yeah.
right. So it was really that. It was that made me adopt that mindset. Like, yeah, something can happen in the process of this. I hope it doesn't, but
Mm-hmm.
I had an idea. The thing that happened was just I didn't expect it to be in that manner at all, because um the people that were involved in my case, I had never come across them in my
Yeah.
life.
Mm-hmm.
And I just found it strange. Like, we get away with the things we're not supposed to and get caught for the things that that we shouldn't. Like, it was like weird to me. Like, I had done a lot in the streets growing up, and I had never gotten caught for certain things. And it's
Yeah.
something that I probably wasn't even supposed to come across. It just had me like binded, like in a sort of a knot that I couldn't escape, which was a case that I caught when I was 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely altered the path of my life. But I was ready, but I wouldn't say I knew what it would be like, but I definitely had an idea that it can happen.
Yeah, and like, it's safe to say, like I said, I started immediately following your story. Powerful, redemption, transformation, faith, accountability. All the things are tied into your story. And I know that back then, probably Rico, when this happened to you probably thought it was the worst thing that happened to you. But
100%.
you obviously were able to transform your whole life. So in all essence, it was probably one of, fair to say, the turning point. So if you don't mind, I kind of want to get into briefly,
Yeah.
that incident, more or less what happened,
Okay.
and looking back at it now, like, was one of the biggest things that you've been able to learn from that.
Yeah. So when I was 18 years old, I was arrested and charged with first degree murder, and it ultimately led me to do 10 years in prison. I was out celebrating my 18th birthday with friends, and we were just trying to extend the night into the morning because I figured at the time, your 18th birthday, you become an adult, you're supposed to go the
Yeah,
hardest.
yeah, yeah.
So it was already about 1:30 in the morning, and people were starting to go home. Excuse me. And so we uh we decided to go to an after hour, which would basically extend the party into the morning. And in my city, we got these thing called bootleggers, where after the liquor store closes,
They
they'll
got
pull
the
up on
liquor
you.
24/7. They
Yeah,
got them all over here in New
they'll
York.
all
Yeah.
right, all right. So yeah, they'll come through with a bottle and they'll charge you double, but you'll have some liquor. And so what they do is they want to meet you in a public setting so nothing happens to them. So they'll meet you in pharmacies, stuff like that, where there's a lot of people. In Rhode Island at 2 in the morning in the middle of the summer, my birthday's in July 10th.
Okay.
It's lit up at 2 in the morning
Mm-hmm,
still.
mm-hmm.
That's probably the most Latino area in the city. And so just the way our culture is as far as teteos and stuff, we outside all night.
Music, la
Yeah.
bebedera.
So they come into something like that to meet you and give you the bottle for the money. And so in the process of that, we had all been drinking. Two of my boys ended up arguing about something that was basically nonsense, and it caused them to fight in the parking lot. In the process of them fighting, somebody else who had been partying, a group of people, they stopped to watch what was going on. I was young enough to where my driving skills weren't that good. So when they started fighting, they took off and they ran off, chasing each other, fighting. And I tried to save the day and get out the back seat of my friend's car and get into his driver's seat and go find them, because my plan was to find them wherever they were, get them in the car, and we take off. And so when I was backing out of the spot that we was parked, I accidentally skimmed past the truck that was behind us with a group of people that were watching the fight, saying fight, 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 egging it on. So I didn't know. I was young enough that I didn't know that when you get into fender benders in the street, people give some dollars so that the cops don't be called.
Yeah.
All I thought to myself was, if there's no damage, you're good. So I had gotten out the vehicle to check. I didn't see any damage. I had like a short exchange of words with them. And all I had heard was, yo, I'm cool, I'm humble. And I heard somebody say something like that. I didn't know that they were leading up to say, just give me a few dollars and we'll be good. All I knew was that, oh, they're saying they're cool. All right, I'm good. So I got back in the vehicle and I turned it fully around and I let it roll because I didn't know where my friends were. And in the process of this, I was boxed in the back of the Walgreens. They jumped out of the vehicle. I was robbed and assaulted. And in the process of defending myself, somebody lost their life.
Okay.
Yeah. So at the end of that night, I ended up having to take off. I woke up to the news in the morning and I got arrested shortly after and I was arraigned on first-degree murder charges.
And how was that feeling the next morning? Because I'm pretty sure whatever situation you got into, the scuffle, the exchange of words, the last thing you thought that the next day after celebrating your birthday, you were gonna get picked up with those charges.
Yeah, absolutely. The last thing I thought, because I had a knife on me that night, and so it's the difference between a knife and a gun. You know, there's probably a 90% chance you shoot somebody, they're probably gonna die. So if somebody gets shot, you have to have a big idea in your mind that it might be that.
Yeah.
But when you have a knife, plenty of people get stabbed and they just continue forth. I know plenty of people, they'll show you their stab wounds. And so I went to sleep that night just thinking that I got some guys off me and next time leave me alone, you know?
Yeah.
Until I was woken up the next morning to one of my friends that he had gotten arrested that night. He had ran into the Walgreens as a part of him and my other friend fighting. And so he stood in there just trying to get away from my other friend. And in the process of him being in there, we was in the back of the Walgreens dealing with the situation. So we take off right after he stays in there. The cops take advantage and they grab him after the fact. He don't even know what happened. And so they end up telling him what happened. They let him go. He comes to my house early in the morning. He gives me the news like, yo, tell me you didn't do it. And I remember that was what I woke up to in the morning. My girlfriend at the time, I was living with her and her mother, and she woke me up telling me, yo, there's somebody at the door for you. And so when he comes in the house, he walks into the room and he tells me, yo, please tell me you didn't do it. That's what I woke up to. So I'm like, damn, what happened? Let's go outside and talk. He breaks the news to me. And it didn't really hit me like right there because he was like, yo, he was like, they just want to talk to you. So, you know, the cops would try to tell somebody to tell you that for you could come in smooth.
Yeah.
But after he left, I'm like, yeah, I go talk to them. I ain't coming back out that station.
You had that feeling already, that knot in your stomach.
And so when I went back upstairs into my house, I started calling around, checking news articles. I couldn't find anything at first. And then I actually got a phone call. And the phone call was somebody else, one of my other friends, and he was telling me that on top of the bad news that I had just received, the person that was in my case was a military veteran.
Wow.
And so that was really when the anxiety and all the stomach knotting and stuff started to set in, because if I didn't know anything else, I knew that somebody of that stature is going to be recompensed for. That
they were going to try to go hard. Like 100%. They weren't even going to try to hear your story. You was in the right. It's not about that. It's about the Marine, right?
Exactly.
So here you are, the couple of days after your birthday, Rico, just turning 18. You get picked up to go through the system. And I know, you know, you said you did 10 years. How was it though? Like, you did the 10 years. Was that your first offer? Like, how did that play out for you? Like, getting arrested and going through that situation while you was incarcerated?
So right off the rip, I knew that it was going to be a difficult process because I had friends that were a little older than me, that they were arrested for like similar things. And I had kind of seen their process, or people that I grew up with that they ended up catching murder charges. And I would just remember how they would just get lost in the system for like a long time. So I knew that what I was in there for was going to be dragged out. But what I didn't know was like how severe it would be for me. So my background and the people that I come from, we're not wealthy, we're not rich. So I already knew that was going to be a struggle because it takes money in order to get represented correctly in the United States.
Of course, yeah.
And so my family is Puerto Rican and Dominican. My grandparents migrated from San Germán, Puerto Rico. And my father's side of the family aren't even involved in my life. And so San Germán, if anybody knows San Germán, it's like it's mountains. It's not even, it's poverty.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have it like that. We're just working class, if anything, you know what I mean? And so I knew it was gonna be an uphill battle as far as that. Um, as the ball started to roll, the time started to go on, and I had a slight sense of hope, because it's just your natural self telling you like, I'm not in the wrong here. Like, they can't do this to me.
Mm-hmm.
But then reality is screaming at you, telling you they're gonna try their best. You're of this caliber, and the person that you're in there for is of that caliber.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's like, no matter what, they're gonna want somebody to pay in some way, shape, or form. And so that ultimately led me to doing years on years on years fighting this case, receiving offers that weren't even valid. I was ultimately charged with an aggressively high charge, which they had no proof to charge me for. I was charged with a first degree murder, and
Wow.
there was no proof, or there was no evidence of me knowing these people, having any malice intent to do anything to them. They had no proof that I had ever even crossed paths with them in my life. And so all of this was a shock to me when I was 18 years old, because if nothing else, we watched Law and Order growing up,
Mm-hmm.
and we know of them Law and Orders that you need that intent or that malice or
Of
that
course.
premeditation. We
Mm.
learned that word from watching them shows.
Yeah.
So it was scary to me. I ain't gonna lie. It was extremely scary, because I'm like, yo, if they're doing this to me without having that type of proof or evidence, like, what else can they do?
Yeah.
And it was a long process of uncertainty and anxiety, and of not being sure of what the future would look like. It was really hard. I can't lie.
Yeah. Listen, man, and coming from someone that went through that prison situation not once and twice, not once but twice, I know the anxiety, the uncertainty,
Mhm.
everything that comes with that. It's crazy, the whole mental and like how were you mentally, like how did that play, a role, like all these years just sitting up and you fighting, and you really at the end of the day you getting these offers, but you still have no clarity how this is gonna play out. Like what would you say throughout this process where you even found a deeper like passion for faith and God, and that's something that you actually held on to get through this bid?
Yeah, it absolutely forced me to grow in faith, because it got to the point where, how people tell you, be positive,
Mm-hmm.
don't think negative. It was literal, like in the literal sense, like all I can do is try to be positive. And trying to be positive, as far as me, comes with a foundation of Christ, because I learned, even as a kid, without me practicing, that God helps you. That's one of the things that they preach to you a lot, and they beat it down into your mind. God will help you in a time of need. And so I started to question that. And I started to tell myself, like, yo, they repeated that to me so many times that I'm going to try them on this, And
Yeah.
what I told myself was, what I got to lose? You feel what I'm
Mhm.
saying? I'm already in this boat. I feel like the boat is sinking. And the only thing that I can do is try to go up in some way, shape, or form, whether it be morally or mentally or emotionally or spiritually. So I started to delve into the word of God and really like educate myself on what faith was. And the more I did it, the more confident I became. I wouldn't say that it completely surpassed my doubt and my anxiety and my depressions, but it gave me another side of emotions and what I was used to feeling. And it was hard because it was a long tunnel, like I said, but that's what I would result to when I was fighting those depressions, when I was fighting those extreme moments of uncertainty. I would see people with similar cases to me. And a lot of times I would try to identify in them, like, all right, this person been here 4 or 5 years. If they haven't done nothing to them, maybe I should be good. I
Mhm.
would watch them lose trial. I watched somebody lose trial after 7.5 years. He called 47 years.
Wow.
And so I would compare myself to him, like, all right, we both got 7.5 years. That must mean they can't get us.
Mm-hmm.
When he lost, I'm like, oh, the 7 years don't mean nothing.
They gave him 40.
They still, so when those things would happen, I would run to the word and just try to escape the feelings that were trying to succumb me. You know what I'm saying? And it ended up becoming a routine. I wouldn't say that the uncertainty and the depression ever stopped attacking me. I just found like a sense of like an out route
Mm-hmm.
for it, and that's really what it was for most of the time.
Yeah, and so and I have to ask, Rico, throughout this time while you was doing this bit, sitting up, fighting a case, certain people, that were in your life prior to incarceration, How did that play out? Did you lose certain individuals? And I mean, like, it could. I'm talking about like either through death or just on the sense like, you know what? Unfortunately, it's the reality. Not everybody wants to deal with someone
Yeah.
incarcerated. And I ask that because, like I said, a big part of my work is youth prevention. And sometimes, I know I do these videos all the time to bring awareness and educate. And I get it. They probably look at me and be like, come on, man, you're an old head. You don't really know what it is to go through that at an early age. But you actually did. So
Yeah.
that's why it was so important for me to have you share,
Mhm.
your powerful story. So how was it in terms of people sticking by you throughout your bid?
Oh, it was difficult. It was extremely difficult because I'll think about that water in that bottle as long as I could see it.
Yeah.
But if you put that under the table, we get to talk and I mess around and forget it's there and leave.
Yeah.
And leave that water bottle behind. And so I realized, like, for the first time, that that's what it is as far as relationships with people. That could be friends, that could be family members, that could be intimate relationships that you have. It just is what it is. And on top of that, life continues to move, people gain new experiences, and you slowly start to go to the back of their brain. And so the phone in jail, it keeps you connected, but it's very vague the way it does. And so it's kind of like a TV with a channel that's staticky. You can see it, but you kind of lose motivation to watch it. And some days it's completely staticky. You can't see anything, gets to the point where you give up on it.
Yeah.
So it was basically, in small words, that with a lot of people. Some people stood with me throughout the whole bid because obviously 1 out of 10 people will have a pure heart. But the girlfriend that I had at the time, we were both young. She was 16, I was 17, turning 18 that day. And her family, on top of it, is telling her, yo, you gonna throw your life away for this kid? This kid is lost. He's done for.
Yeah.
They're trying to look out for her. The friends that I have, they were all lost the same as me. So now they're just filling their holes with something else, I was good to fill their holes of validation and things like that as long as I was there. But now that I'm gone, I become a memory that you just say out loud so that people can think that you care. But in real life, the work and effort that it takes, only a few people put it in for me. And I started to just understand, like, all right, that foundation that I thought was made of solid rocks was really one of sand.
Yeah.
Because I'm seeing right now how it's folding beneath me. And I started to understand, like, yo, what you think it is in the moment can change. That was my first time experiencing that because I was cemented in what I thought. I got tattoos on my face. I got tattoos all over me. These are gang tattoos. And it was what I thought was me cemented in that life that wasn't going to change because I had never experienced that sort of change. I didn't know it. I knew it by name, but I didn't know it by heart up until I actually went through my circumstances and I started to see. And so what I started to do was, instead of becoming bitter about it, I started to pray about it and just ask God to guide me differently as far as relationships this time. And in the process of that, I learned forgiveness. I feel like God was guiding me through the parts of the Bible that speak on forgiveness, right? And so I started to try to embrace that, only in the sense, like, not if you punch me in my face, I walk away, but in the sense like, all right, you know what? I'm not going to talk bad about my dad no more. I'm not going to talk bad about the people that's not with me because I'm going to forgive. Meaning, I didn't forget what you did. I just don't want revenge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what forgiving is.
Yeah.
So some people think like, yo, I'm supposed to let somebody rock. No, it's not that you let them rock. You don't allow them in your life no more, but you don't get revenge on them. You don't make them feel what they made you feel. When that started to happen, I believe in my heart that that's when God allowed me to have people that I couldn't. I gained a relationship with my father that I never had. I was 22 years old the first time I ever spoke to my dad and saw a picture of him. I was already a man, but that was when the doors started opening to me through other people that weren't even in my life. Then I have an older brother through my father's side. He started reaching out looking for me. And I started realizing, you're like, yo, people are flooding into my life that I once was closed off to.
Yeah.
Because I was so focused on pouring into my street friends. And then I realized the only reason why is because I learned to embrace forgiveness. And now my heart is ready for genuine relationships.
Yeah.
And God's given them to me. So when you believe in God, God will give you a proof that only convinces you through that proof. I can't convince you. If I plant a seed in the ground, I can't start talking to it so it could grow.
Yeah.
What makes it grow? The water and the light. You know what I'm saying? So when people will ask you, like, if you could prove to me that God is real, then I'll believe. I can't do that. I could tell you, and then you take the initiative. And then once God gives you your own proof, something to where you say, yo, that's crazy. Nobody knew that. Or, you get what I'm saying? Something that you always wanted and put it in the back of your mind and it happens after. That's when everybody be convinced within themselves and then they tell other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's really how I started really understanding what it was as far as relationships, and then building on my faith to guide it to new relationships in the future. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Hmm.
and that's deep, very powerful. Like you saw the expression on my face. I appreciate you dropping that gem about forgiveness, because I tell people out there through my messages all the time, forgiveness is not supposed to mean you forget, and you don't forgive because they deserve it. You
Right.
forgive because you deserve your peace.
Yeah.
You know, the moment that I was able to embrace forgiveness and not, stay stuck with that resentment and anger inside of me,
Hmm.
that's when my comeback,
Right. See
began.
that?
So like you dropping that, I
Hmm.
automatically got goosebumps because I felt the similarity right there.
Yeah.
When you took the 10 years though, Rico, like did you go to trial or like
So what happened
how,
was, I had an offer of 60 years with 40 to serve. That's what they offer you in Rhode Island if you have a first degree. And so I received that offer when I was like when I was 20 years old. It was like 2017 when I got that offer. And so the lawyer that I had would always tell me like, yo, they're really trying to disrespect us with this offer. And I have to legally, I have to tell you what it is, but I want you to know we're not going to go for it. So my lawyer would ask me at the time, like, yo, what do you want? What do you want done? Do you want to go to trial? Do you want to? And I would tell her things like, yo, I just want to bounce back. You feel me? I was really scared of trial, just being honest, because I would watch everybody lose all around me. So I just wanted some sort of an offer that I felt was proper to what I admitted to defending myself. Like,
mm-hmm.
even in the station, like, they was like, yo, what happened? I'm like, yo, some dudes robbed me, assaulted me. I had to get them off me. And so in my mind, I'm like, all right, I'm already like in a position to where I can't just act like I didn't do it and just go to trial and say it wasn't me.
Yeah,
But I would like, and I wouldn't mind if I had to sit down, okay, as long as it's reasonable, because in real life, I was really defending myself.
of course.
So I would tell her, like, yo, just get me some sort of a deal that makes sense to what I'm here for.
Yeah,
And she would be like, okay, but they wouldn't budge. And things were really prolonged because a lawyer has 1,000 cases. They also have physical health they have to tend to. And they also have to be cautious of where they put their time. I went through COVID-19 when I was in there. I went years on end without no court because COVID-19 closed court up.
yeah, I was there too. It's
So
terrible.
it was a lot. It was a lot for me. When my lawyer got my case, I had 2 years in. She told me off the rip, I'm going to need time because your case is this big.
Mm-hmm.
So I allowed her to have a year, 2 years, even 3 if she needed to try to help me properly. So then there goes 3. I already got 2. That's 5. Now here comes COVID, which stopped court in Rhode Island for 2 years. We couldn't go in and out. So now that's 7. And then my lawyer actually got physically sick to where she told me like, yo, I'm going to need time to get better. So then that lasted about a year. So now we're at 8. And the whole time where I got the assistant, which is my lawyer's assistant, trying to help me go back and forth to court, but they're playing poker with me and they're telling me that they're not trying to budge on the offer. I'm scared of trial, and I feel like they know people are scared to go to trial, so they give you a high offer in order to scare you into thinking it's a number and it's better than a letter.
Yeah, oh yeah, of course.
When you're in jail, that's one of the sayings. So you'll hear 5 sayings in jail. You'll hear another day in paradise. You'll hear another day in the dungeon. You'll hear you just hear a bunch of sayings, but one of them is a number is better than a letter. That's one thing that you'll hear daily and constantly. And if you're there for those type of cases, like how I was, and you're young, the OGs they surround you constantly and they try to get you to stay with them. What I mean by stay with them is a lot of OGs are doing big time. They see a young buck that they could eat their brain, and people won't admit it, but they don't want you to leave. You could be their rec, you could be their entertainment, you could be their fulfillment, because OGs think by teaching that they're doing something, but in real life, they could be filling a hole within themselves because they're doing life
Of
for
course.
60 years.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of them, they don't want you to leave. So they'll tell you stuff like, yo, take 25, youngin'. It's a number. You'll only be 45 years old when you come out. You'll still be able to have kids. They tell you stuff like that. They tell you, yo, either you're gonna take 25 or you're gonna get life. So they constantly want to flood your brain on top of the fact that you see it happening. So they're like, you see what happened to such and such.
Yeah.
I actually saw somebody turn down a 22-year offer and he got life. And he was 19. And so it's just a constant cycle of people telling you, yo, a number is better than a letter. If they're offering you that, take it. And so it got to the point where I stopped telling people what my offer was because I didn't want to argue about what I wanted to do with my life. And they will argue you down. Like, what? You be trying to take 40 and you're down for doing what to who? And now you find yourself in this state of of just rejection from people, you don't know that they just want you to be there with them in a sense. Some of them might have a genuine heart and could be telling you something that they think is best for you, but it's really depressing even just hearing these type of things.
Yeah, of course.
So when I'm in the state of having a high offer or going to trial, I don't really want to go to trial. But I'm thinking to myself, like, yo, what's the difference? I do 40 years, I come out, I'm 78 years old. What life I'm gonna have then? So I was waiting it out, and no matter what was happening, I was telling myself, like, yo, if it comes down to it and they're really not trying to budge with this 60 with 40, I'm gonna just have to go. But I really didn't want to. You know what I mean? And so ultimately, finally, my lawyer's name is Dawn Huntley. And Miss Dawn ended up recovering of her physical illness, and she got better. And she told me, like, yo, man, it's been so long of a journey that I'm just gonna start my trial notebooks and we're just gonna have to go. And so I was to the point where I was like, you know what, let's just do it. By that time though, I was extremely like optimistic just because my faith had grown a lot, you know? And I had really felt deeply like that God wasn't gonna abandon me. Not this time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's some people that God shows grace when they're dead wrong. And I was like strongly convicted in my heart at times when the doubt wasn't beating me up that God wasn't gonna let me be like unjustly like tried, you know, like this is the one time where I was in the right, and it's like it's the worst time ever.
Yeah.
But that was that little bit of that little shimmer of hope, glimmer of hope, but it had me like, you know what, it is what it is. And so it got to the point where they seen that we was about to suit up for trial, they ended up buckling their hand, and then it became the offer started going down, and then she came and rushed up and told me, yo, look what's happening. The whole time, they really wasn't trying to let you go to trial. They put it up high so you could think you got no option. But look what they're doing now, because there was a lot of evidence in my case. There was camera footage of me trying to leave the scene. There was also a chain that I had on. It was like a little tennis chain that got ripped off my neck. It was found in their vehicle. There was a lot that I had in my favor. On top of the fact that they were 26 and 24, I believe, years old. They completely outweighed me. When I was 18, I was like 140.
Of course, he's teenagers still, you
and
know?
I was with a female. So it was like, in Rhode Island, we don't have a self-defense, stay in your ground law per se, like Florida and places like that, to where if you push somebody, they could shoot you. But we got a fight or flight law, which means like if I pull out a gun on you right now, and because that wall is behind you and stuff, you can kill me right here. But if I do it to you outside and there's a street behind you, you have to try to run first because you have open space.
All right.
Then if I chase you, then you can do something to defend yourself. And because of that, I wasn't able to just get out quick and get bail like how some people do in other states. But also, it was something to where the evidence agreed with me taking flight first, because the initial incident, which was the car accident, is where anything should have happened. Like, if anything, if I was like in a drunken rage, like how they try to say, or if I was upset that they was gonna call the police, I would have did it right there. The evidence supported me taking off and them chasing me, and that's called going from A to B. So that's called me taking flight. They followed me, and then the incident happened in the back of the pharmacy. So it was the video evidence. The body language that I had getting out of the vehicle was one of somebody submissive. I wasn't being aggressive. In one of the videos that we have, you can see me doing like this, and you can also see me doing like that. And so even with no audio, this is not a position of somebody being aggressive. And if you had to guess right now, without me saying words, what do you think this means? If I do like this and I don't say nothing.
Like that, you are right, you know, like
if I go
chill, you know, I'm good.
This is like chill, right?
Chill.
And this is like my bad.
My bad.
My fault.
I'm sorry.
You know what I'm saying? And so in the video, you can see that. And so when it came time to force the issue, my lawyer was like really like aggressive with the fact that it was like, yo, Your Honor, we could put this in front of a jury. What they gonna say? You know what I'm saying? On top of the fact that he went from A to B. So they ended up trying to go to something like 2023. And my lawyer came back, and when I first initially spoke with her and I told her that I was willing to bounce back, I had told her like, yo, I'll take 20 or 15 or 10 would be nice. In my mind, 20 was worst case, 10 was best case.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, that's what a self-defense carried.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I didn't want no 20, but I knew like at least 20 you could parole.
Yeah,
maybe.
or like meet me somewhere halfway or something. Yeah.
So she came back and told me, yo, they told me 23. she was like, the fact that they're even bargaining with me, I wanna go. Like she was really like adamant about going. And I was just like, yo, if they're budging, then keep making them budge because I don't want to go. You know what I'm saying? My whole point of going was because I thought they wasn't budging.
Yo, salute to you, man, for having that patience too. Cause in those moments, a lot of people break. You hearing all those numbers, plus you dealing with the jailhouse lawyers telling you, yo, take this, you good, you be all right.
The change, the drastic change was like.
Did you ever have that moment though, Rico, where you felt you went to your son, just had that conversation with God, like, listen, I'm gonna put it all in your hands, but I know I have light at the end of the tunnel.
100%. Well, I wouldn't say it like that. I would just put it in the sense like when I would say my prayers, like I'm transparent with the way I used to pray because a lot of people don't even know how. So when I would pray, I would talk like how I'm talking to you right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like I was just bringing forth to God like, yo, you know what happened? And there's nothing I can do. Your Bible done taught me that you will manifest through strength in my weaknesses. And so my weakness right now is the vulnerability that I have to this case. So if you're going to manifest in strength, I need you to do it here. Because if you see me walking with a limp, you're going to help me walk, right?
Yeah.
Because my limp, that's my weakness. So you're going to manifest in strength in the form of helping me walk. And so this is how I would present my prayers to God. And so when I used to say my prayers like that, it was just a sense of like, all right, the Bible says recite the word of God to God, and that's what I'm doing. The Bible says to believe with faith. The Bible says faith of a mustard seed. The Bible gives accounts of people who shouldn't have had faith, but they had it, like David and Goliath, like Moses parting the seas. Like in the very beginning, it starts hitting you with gems. The story of Joseph, his brothers traded him in, and he had no reason to think that he would be anything. He ended up becoming second to the Pharaoh in Egypt and ruled over nations. You get what I'm saying? These are accounts that they give you right off the rip.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, all right, bet you guys are giving me, God, you're giving me that word, and you're trying to display to me different accounts of faith. Mine's, I'm gonna do the same. And I used to tell myself, like, yo, if it doesn't work out, then it wasn't me. I'm gonna take a risk off something that is saying is cemented, right? The word is saying that there's no lie in the word of God, right? It's the book of truth. So I'm telling myself, like, all right, I'm gonna take a risk on that. It's like if you go to a casino and they tell you you're gonna win $1 million. You're willing to take that risk. If you don't, it's not because you. Mm-hmm. It's because they advertise that. So the Bible's advertising this faith to me in the sense where I'm like, yo, I'm gonna do it. You feel what I'm saying? I'm gonna have this faith. I'm gonna have blind faith. I'm gonna manifest. I'm gonna close my eyes. I used to spend time manifesting in my room, bro. Like I'll close my eyes, right? And I would imagine like how the wind sounds of me walking out the door. I used to imagine, you know, when you wear boots and you walk on some concrete. I used to imagine that. I used to imagine like how it felt me rubbing my foot on the concrete free. I used to like do like this with my eyes closed and try to imagine myself looking at no fence, just like grass.
Being outside, yeah.
I used to really manifest because I used to tell myself like, if I incorporate all of my senses into my mental, I'm going to make some sort of a frequency. It has to. When you think about a prayer, you close your eyes and you imagine where you're praying to God. You get what I'm saying? When you read the Bible, you even put faces on people in the stories that you never seen. This is all. So I'm like, I'm going to make some sort of a frequency by this manifestation. And I'm going to incorporate the word of God into it. Because a lot of people, they'll talk about manifesting just regularly. I'm trying to manifest in the time with the word of God, with what the word of God is telling me, to have blind faith. And the Bible says that Jesus would tell people, like his disciples, you will do these works and much more in my name if you have faith and believe. It even talks about a point where they were trying to do a miracle on somebody and they couldn't, right? Yeah. He was like sick. Y Jesus said que he got mad because they called him like, yo, why we don't got no power to help him? And he's like, yo, how long I'm gonna be here to continue to tell you the same thing? I told you, if you have real faith in my name, you're going to be able to do the same things that I did and more if you believe in my Father who sent me. And so right there, he had to heal the man for them. But I took that as him saying to them, you can do it because I'm in you. Like when I depart from you, I send the Holy Spirit as a part of me to be in you. And you're going to be able to do these type of things. I'm taking that. I read out the Bible. And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm about to move this mountain with these prayers. Because that's how I used to picture it. Like when I used to close my eyes, I used to picture like my situation like a mountain, and I'm this big in front of the mountain, and I gotta either get through or over it. But I started picturing myself just moving it out the way completely
Mm-hmm.
with these prayers, right? Because the mountain's bigger than you. If it falls on you, you're done. You get it? So I started to just manifest that way. And when it came time that I actually saw a change after so many years, I'm like, oh, the mountain was so big, it took this long. It's equally yoked. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, all right. So when they came back and said 23, that it was at 40, I'm like, yo, try to see if they'll do uh something better. She's like, all right, boom. She goes, she comes back. She's like, yo, they said 15. I'm like, damn. She's like, yo, I'm gonna try and go get the 10. I'm like, bet. So she goes, she continues to conference, she continues to have these conversations. And ultimately she came back and she told me, yo, they don't want to do 10, but they want to do 13. What you want to do? And so I'm like, yo, I'm with 13, like 100%. Like I was just wishing for some type of good news. This is good news to me.
Of course, it's not the 10, but it's not the 20.
And it's freedom.
You know, it's freedom.
It's freedom.
It's light at the end of the tunnel.
Because you just like, it's tough. Like for me, I was in a transition building because I was fighting my case. Until you're sentenced, you don't get to go to like the prisons.
It's like here's like Rikers Island. It's county.
Right, until you go upstate over there. Right. So it's the same. So the ISC is the intake service center, is a transition building. So you constantly seeing people in and out. People's going home, people's getting life, getting sent to the other buildings. But you just want to be the one to either go home or get some sort of a news like that you can comfort yourself with. So it became, you know how you dream to be a basketball player when you're a kid? It became to be a dream of mine just to get some good news. Like all my other dreams was like, this is a dream now. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, yo, my dream is coming true, literally. You feel me? And so I'm like, she's like, yo, they said 13, but I want to go to trial. And she's trying to convince me about why we should go to trial and stuff like that. And so I had to really explain it to my team, to my defense team, like, yo, man, I feel like I have freedom in my hands right now. And I feel like if I go to trial, I'm throwing it up in the air, hoping that I catch it. And
you don't want to juggle with that.
Yeah, the only reason why is because of the record that's going to follow me. And that's something I'm willing to live with as long as I'm guaranteed freedom. So the offer ended up being, in the end, it was 25 years with 13 to serve.
Okay.
And then 11 suspended. So in the state of Rhode Island, you accumulate 10 days of good time monthly, plus what you earn for working.
Okay.
Unless you have a capital offense, which is first degree murder, rape, aggravated robbery, carjacking, things of that nature. I had a capital offense because it was a first degree. So I never really had any incentive to get good time, but I would still like tell myself like, all right, that don't mean I'm gonna crash out because things could change. And it was to my benefit because ultimately the deal was to amend the charge that came with that time, and it went from a first degree to a manslaughter, which is basically self-defense. And I had accumulated like over like 1,500 days of good time, like 250 from working as a porter.
Okay.
And then the 10 days a month, I got like 1,300 and change por ahí. So I had like 15 days of good time, which turned my 8.5 at the time, which was 2023, into 12.
So you pretty much had like another year to do it. All right.
So these are the things I'm taking into account when she's telling me I can go to trial. I'm like, I'll do one more year and be home.
Yeah.
Or I'll go to trial and gamble.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't willing to gamble. So we went to court. We took the time. They sent me to a building finally, a sentence building. I went to the medium. Then I made it down to the minimum. And I was able to come home. And yeah, that's how it went.
Beautiful, man. I'm glad, everything worked out for you. And I have to ask, Rico, when you got clarity with that situation, like, I'm gonna take the 13 and I have one more year to go home. Was it at that moment or early on the bid when you made a decision, like, I don't know when I'm gonna get out of here, but when it happens, I'm gonna dedicate myself to using my story to help others, especially the next generation, avoid that path? Because like I said, I'm following the work you're doing, and I'm a fan of your work, and I appreciate the work you're doing,
Appreciate you. I would say it wasn't it wasn't accumulated in my mind. So before I had went to jail for that, I had a significant buzz in my city with music.
All right.
Like me and the people that I used to be up and down with. So we accumulated in the music scene, and we were starting to, and when I was in there, somebody that I once hung with, he signed to a deal and everything.
Okay.
So we was like on a track to make it some sort of way. And then I went to jail. When I went to jail, I went viral just for my court picture and stuff like that. And so like I knew somehow, some way, my life is gonna be used for something because God keeps letting me get to these checkpoints to let me know like, yo, this is your level. Like some people are meant to work in grocery stores and they're gonna be good at it. Some people are meant to be mailmen. Some people are meant to play basketball. I felt like throughout my course of life, God kept telling me like, yo, you're meant to be on a stage of some sort, right? But it's like life wanted me to go on the wrong types of stages. So deep down within, I had an idea on top of the fact that everybody would tell me like, yo, if you was to ever get out, bro, that story would be crazy. Like, yo, you will be famous and people will be gassing you up. And you start telling yourself like, yo, I do have a movie type story, like with
Yeah,
the way that I,
definitely, definitely.
you know, but I still wasn't like 100% sure because I still had the music dream because I thought I left off here. So that means that I have the gun loaded basically to make it, because I had the buzz and stuff like that. But I was lacking in the area of accepting that life changed. It was a decade, you know what I'm saying? And so I thought that I could pick up where I left off. And because there was a storyline of me overcoming, I thought that would be enough to make it in the music scene. I didn't know how saturated the music scene had become. I didn't know the influence that internet had and how much it spread. I didn't really know these things because there wasn't even no such thing as algorithms when I got locked up.
Yeah, you coming home in a totally different time
You
right now.
understand?
Yeah.
So when I was home, it's like if you're popular, you're just gonna get the views and that's it. There was nobody like interfering with where your platform goes. As like now you have an algorithm that can send you here, it could hide
Yeah.
you, it could boost you up. So there's somebody like interfering now. And so I came out dropping videos and it wasn't going up. And I'm like, yo, everybody telling me that I'm this and that, and I'm still nice at rapping and stuff, and why I'm not. And then I had to slowly but surely learn like what the internet was and what the consummation of content was in 2025 because I came home December, the end of 2024. I had couple more days till New Year's. So in 2025, I'm back trying to just reacquaint myself with what it is as far as content. And I try to just think to myself, like, all right, maybe if you hit them in the head with content after content, like music video and music. But I realized like that polished, basically like that polished like figure of a rap superstar, it's boring to people. Like that HD picture all the time and don't talk to nobody and just be exclusive. Like people already moved on from that,
Mm-hmm.
and we're in the age of engagement. You feel me? And so, music, I would say like a musical testimony can only go so far because there are people who have their genres that they're already full of. There's millions of rappers now,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was trying to say my story through music, and I realized it wasn't hitting as much. So I was getting like a little anxious, and even at times I was thinking about just letting it go, just regular
Yeah.
doubt. But I just continued to just study like the internet and just watch things. And I was a little bit in denial because I thought the new wasn't the right way
Mm-hmm.
because I found success before. And once I was honest with myself and I was able to say like, yo, you have to accept what it is now, that's when I started to really just embrace the just the gritty looking things. Like everything don't have to be an HD camera. You can just talk to the camera. You can green screen your background. And then when I started really impacting, this was recently. This wasn't even I got like a year and change out, a year and a half, almost 2 years. This was probably like 3-4 months of me just building up the courage to say, you know what, I'm gonna put away everything that I'm in denial about and I'm gonna really just give them my genuine self that I've been for years. Because one thing that I did accept and one thing that I did cement in my heart was like, yo, I can't change.
Yeah.
I feel like it would come at a price. I feel like if I ask God and I make all these vows and promises and I actually get the benefit and I try to steal it by running off and doing what I want, I feel like I would pay a heavy price. I'm just that convicted about what I feel God did for me. So one thing I was really convicted about, probably not being a mentor or all this and that, but I knew that I just couldn't switch. You know what I mean? So obviously I struggled with the luxuries of life because I was in withdrawal. I had been gone for so long.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of had to make my way through like, partying, not partying in the club, but just having a good time and feeling good. And I didn't want to be strict on myself at all. I lost a little bit of discipline, but once I got it out my system and I realized bravery was what I was lacking to really use my voice for something that's not accepted towards certain people, but will impact a lot. That's really when I started to see impact. And that's that video that you saw.
Mm-hmm.
That was in the midst of me really just trying to muster up bravery to say, you know what, I know people's not going to accept this. But at the end of the day, there's always a side of people that won't accept me. If I do what I think is cool, there's civilians that won't accept me. So
Yeah.
let me just switch it around. And it's like, all right, the cool guys won't accept me, but there's a lot of people in the world that might. And then I got that train going in my mind. And then I was able to really understand just through the analytics. All right, I just put something talking to the camera. People's actually listening. All right, I'm actually following people who are making some sort of a difference in the community, or I'm building relationships. And then I'm just learning as I go. You know what I'm saying? But I feel a lot more cemented as far as the foundation under my feet now. And now that I'm actually making impact and people's reaching out to me and they're telling me how impactful and how much my story is to them, it's giving me like a great amount of confidence to just keep pushing it and building it and just keep stretching it out to the world, you know?
Absolutely, brother.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna tell you firsthand, Rico, impact indeed you are making, and you could see, like it's no lie in it. You share your story. You from Providence. I'm from New York, and
Mm-hmm.
somehow the video reached me. So I'm gonna give you, an advice that somebody gave me. Don't stop sharing your story.
Yeah.
Don't stop telling your story, because through your story, believe it or not, you helping a lot of people out there. And believe me when I tell you, the people who need to see your story will see your story eventually. Yeah. Like, honestly, I had to make that decision myself. Coming home from a second bid, I come from a background, I was hustling, I was selling drugs. So I had to make that decision too. Like, damn, I'm going to come in front of a camera now, speak. People's not used to seeing this version of myself. But when you feel like you said you already, have that relationship with God and this is what you want to do, you just got to keep pushing, So I commend you that you didn't give up, that you kept pushing. And I know you just actually, dropped some music too, So I kind of want to get into briefly everything that Rico got going on. What can we look out for Rico looking forward now?
Yeah, so content wise, you can find me anywhere at Rico Still Made It. I go by the name of Rico Still Made It. And I'm just trying to really just put forth like overcoming and perseverance through like my platform. And so Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, you'll see all of this in a musical form. You know what I'm saying? I like to call it an audio documentary. And I'm just incorporating it in the message, for those who are a fan of music, just because God gave me that tool to use in the toolbox. You know what I mean?
That's great, man. I'm
Mhm.
beautiful, man. I'm glad you was able to find, purpose through your trials and tribulations. And I want to ask you, Rico, when you hear like off the count and making it count, what does off the count mean to you, and making it count, and what is Rico doing today to make it count out here?
Off the count is remembering what it once was. So I could remember count time. Like count time for us was 5:45 to 7:15. In the mornings it was I would say it was 10:30 to 2:45, and these are different count times to where you're in that room and you gotta just really just go from an adult to feeling like a child. You know what I'm saying? And when you're in that cell and the doors that we had, it had very slim windows, and you're looking out and you're just seeing bricks and concrete and stuff like that. You're just telling yourself like, yo, this is not life. The memories that I have, they're like, when the movie's black and white and when things get better, color comes in the movie. It's like they're like gloomy memories that I have, And so I put it forth. I'm not trying to manifest any bad energy. I close my eyes a lot intentionally to remember like what it feels like laying on the cot and stuff like that, to understand and be more grateful of my present and the opportunity that I have just having freedom. You know what I'm saying? And making it count is just turning one into two with the freedom, because it once was zero. So there's a part of the Bible that it says there was a landowner that he had some field tillers and he left them all with different amounts of currency. One had one had two, and one had 4 or 5, if I'm not mistaken. And long story short, the one that had 1 shekel complained about it because he didn't have 2 and 5. The one that had 2 and 5, they doubled their amount, and they put it on the deposit with the bankers or whatever they did, but they was able to double what they had. The one that had 1 shekel, he went and buried it because he was so depressed that he didn't have more. Instead of acting on it, he just buried it to keep that 1 shekel safe, to make sure they had it. So when the owner of the field came back, he held account to all of them, and the ones that doubled their money, he told them, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in few things. I'll put you in charge of many." The one that had 1 shekel, he called him, "Yo, what you did?" He said, "Yo, I only had 1 shekel, so I buried it so I don't lose it." So he was kicked out of the vineyard, you feel me? And his job was lost. And it says that he was, in the Bible term, it says that he was kicked out to darkness where there's gnashing of teeth. What that means to me is that with this story and with my life, and if I bury it just to make sure I'm safe, and then so I don't receive judgment or whatever that means, it's not making it count, like how
Yeah.
you're saying. If I play it safe, like how that one person did, I feel like in the end I would be like taken away from what God wants me to do with this.
Yeah.
And I could pay for that, because it's like, yo, I gave you a story to spread out to people, and you went and you stood quiet so you could be cool, and so people can accept you and don't call you different or goody two shoes or Jesus freak. I feel like that would be disrespectful to God. So me doing what I'm doing, as far as Rico Still Made It, and this platform that we got, is making it count to me, if I had to say it like
That's
that.
powerful, brother. That's
Thank you,
deep,
thank
man. And I gotta give you your flowers real quick. You know, like it's one thing to read the Bible, Rico, but the way you've been over here dropping gems, like you
Thank you.
speaking on certain things, and then you tying it directly to a story from the Bible.
Yeah,
like it tells me firsthand, you didn't just read the Bible; you really broke it down,
yeah.
decipher it. So you know, I
100%.
gotta give you your flowers on that.
Thank you, bro.
Last thing I wanna chime in before we leave, Rico. If you could look into that camera, right? If you can go and speak to Rico, 18 years old, going through that situation that night, then later walking through that courtroom, and to the youth out there, in light of this, you know, the day and age we're living in right now, gang violence at an all-time high. Every day we wake up, the age keeps getting lower and lower, 16, 15, 14.
Yeah.
Youth being lost either to the system or the cemetery. What's some better 60 seconds that you can speak to them and to the younger Rico?
So the younger Rico was extremely close-minded, you know? So the reason that I feel like I understand what the youth processes when you try to speak to them is because of how close-minded I remember being. So the 18-year-old Rico was somebody who was really like focused on fulfilling what he felt was his duties as the person that he was, as far as like what he felt like he needed to do in order to keep receiving what he needed. What I mean by that is that when I was 18 years old, I was looking for validation in the things I surrounded myself with. And I felt like in order to receive that validation, I had to do certain things, and nobody could tell me different. This is why I feel like you can't just talk to youth, because they're not really trying to hear it, because it's about what you present and the positions that you put them in that shows them. We got to have an expectancy of our words falling short as far as youth, because words don't put in that much work, guys. I say it puts in 5-10% work. And I know because of how close-minded I was, it was like 2% work. That the only thing it did was help me have it in my memory, but it really wasn't going to put in no work as far as changing me. So I would tell my 18-year-old self, understand and respect experience. It's going to hurt. It's going to burn, right? But understand that experience is the most valuable thing in life. And not until you go through your experiences will you learn, right? Unfortunately, some people don't make it out to the other side of their experiences. And that's what we want to prevent. But what we want to teach people that's 18, 17, 16 years old, we just want to describe and illustrate what consequence looks like more profoundly. We want to describe and illustrate what experience and aftermath looks like more profoundly, so that they can at least, instead of just knowing it by name, understand it by heart. Like I said, the analogy that I made, if I see you on the street and I know who you are, I only know your name.
Yeah.
So we want to explain and we want to put consequence in the forefront of their life as examples. However we may do that, guys, help me out as well, so we could start putting things together to help the youth understand what it is physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, so that they can know it by heart, and so that they can understand, you know what I mean? Because it's only getting worse. It's gonna continue to get worse. You know what I'm saying? The society that we live in is upside down. So I would really say, to close it out, like, yeah, man, I would tell my 18-year-old self, just hold on to your seat and understand that what it is right now is not what it's always gonna be.
I appreciate that message you heard, Rico. And to everyone out there that's been listening and tuning in, I'm definitely gonna make sure to drop Rico's handles in the bottom, so y'all can make sure y'all follow him, and we could stay on the lookout for all the good work that he got going on.
Yes, sir.
Rico Still Made It. And of course, to all my returning citizens out there and the youth, I'm sure this story is gonna serve its purpose, because it's a story of true transformation, resilience, redemption, and again, showing you that change is possible growth is possible. And sometimes what you might think is the worst thing happening to you at the moment might just turn out to be the best thing. So to everyone out there, thank you for locking in. Another powerful episode of Off the Count Podcast is in the books. As for me, you can find me at Made Up North NYC and at Off the Count Podcast on all social platforms. And remember, freedom is not just about being out, it's what you do with it. Off the count and making it count. Till next time, Rico, brother, I appreciate you, man.
Thank you for having me, man. 100%.
Appreciate you.